Hey guys, it's Michael from Fire and Brilliance, and today I have a very special episode for you. Many of you have been following me for a while now, and if you're new to the channel, then welcome. But typically, when I go over the Geminars, I'm talking about cleared colored gemstones, right? So, in other words, white gemstones from diamonds to moissanite, mostly moissanite I've been focusing on. Today's episode will be about a natural gemstone that happens and is created in nature called Alexandrite. Okay, so Alexandrite is a very exciting gemstone. That's how it's spelled, Alexandrite. Okay, so why is it exciting? It's because it's a gemstone that has many, many colors, all right? So if you are into colored gemstones, then you may know what I'm talking about. And if you do not know what an Alexandrite is, then welcome. Here is what it is, okay? So per GIA, if you do not know what GIA is, the Gemological Institute of America, all right? They stated that it's a chameleon-like qualities. It is a rare variety of crystal beryl. Okay, so what that basically means is this, right? This specific color stone, it's so unique that depending on different lighting environments, the color will actually change. Okay, so in other words, it's from bluish green in daylight, and it will change to purplish red in incandescent light. So in other words, in lighting environments such as a campfire, candlelight, or a lamp, right? So in a very low, warm colored, darkish type of lighting environment, you'll see a purplish red color from this gemstone, whereas in daylight, in bright light, you may see a bluish greenish color, and it's a beautiful stone. So that being said, many will call it an emerald by day and a ruby by night. So, and on top of that, if you've been following the channel, again, obviously a diamond has a hardness on the Mohs scale of a 10. A moissanite is about a 9.25 to about 9.5. And a Mohs scale for Alexandrite is an 8.5, so it's still relatively hard. It is still a very hard gemstone, and at the same time, it's obviously not as soft as other gemstones, but of course, it's not going to be as hard as moissanite or diamonds. But that being said, if you are into colored gemstones, then hopefully this provides you with some information as to what, hopefully if you're actually looking for it. Now, that being said, the refractive index, again, a reminder, if you do not know what a refractive index is, I've already gone over this in my, breaking down Fire and Brilliance. I believe that's what the video is called, where I broke down the definition of refractive index. All that basically means is that the higher the refractive index, it means the higher the brilliance. Okay, so with diamonds and moissanite, the refractive index is relatively high at about a 2.4 and higher. So obviously for diamonds, it's actually pretty high. Moissanite is even higher than that. The refractive index of an Alexandrite is a 1.746 to a 1.75. Okay, so but don't let that fool you. Just because it's slightly less than diamonds or moissanite doesn't necessarily mean it's not brilliant because of the type of gemstone it is, right? So it's a beautiful gemstone with a high refractive index, and the price. So the last part, what most people are typically want to see, other than the actual visual of what this looks like, and I'll definitely break it down for you after this introduction to Alexandrite, is other than the visuals and what it actually looks like and the colors and the works, most people, what they want to also know is how does it affect the price, right? How much will it cost if they wanted to buy an Alexandrite? So the price truly depends on a few variables. Obviously, these are not all of the variables, but these are the main variables, right? So it's based on the visuals or the color that the Alexandrite shows, the clarity, or in other words, are there a lot of inclusions? Is a clear gemstone? So that determines the actual quality of the gemstone. Obviously, the carat weight, how heavy it is, how big it is. Obviously, in gemstones, jewelry and the works, the bigger it is, the more expensive it will be. And then if it's a lab versus a natural, and even in a natural, the price will be dependent whether or not it's been treated or not. Okay, so what does it mean to say that gemstone is treated? So for colored stones specifically, many people may not know that colored gemstones, natural colored gemstones, are mostly or many colored gemstones in the market are treated or color enhanced. Okay, so the whole point of buying colored gemstones is because you want the color of that specific gemstone. So for example, if you're buying a ruby, you want it to be red. You want to buy sapphire, you may want a blue sapphire, a red sapphire, a pink sapphire or a white sapphire. If you want to buy an emerald, you want it to be green. And obviously if you want to buy an Alexandrite, you want it to have these color variations, right? So when it comes to natural gemstones, sometimes when you find a gemstone in nature, the colors may not be as vibrant or deep or vivid. So there are methods in the industry to color enhance these gemstones through heat, through radiation, and through other techniques. All right. So if it's been treated, then obviously it's considered like a modified natural. And if that's the case, then obviously the price will be lower versus a natural that have all of these characteristics, but without being treated. Now that makes it very rare and that makes it very expensive. So I'll give you an example of something that I found, right, just in the marketplace, and I'll kind of break down exactly what the difference in the cost is between a natural that's untreated with a high quality grade versus a lab created gemstone. Okay, so before going into that, I just want to make sure that you guys also understand that typically lab created gemstones are gemstones created in a lab, so therefore they can definitely control the environment that it's grown in. When something can be controlled, you can control two things. You can control the quality for the most part of that gemstone, so that only good product or nice looking beautiful gemstones are being produced. You can also control the cost structure of creating that gemstone, and therefore ultimately controlling the price. So when you purchase a lab versus a natural, typically the lab created gemstone will be less, right? So that being said, if we are to compare apples to apples, a 5-carat oval green to intense purple Alexandrite with a very high quality, high clarity grade, very high clarity grade where it looks very clear with very little to zero inclusions, then for a natural, you're looking at anywhere between $25,000 to $35,000 per carat. Okay, so if you're talking about 5 carats, then it's going to range anywhere between $125,000 to $175,000. And now you're talking about high quality Alexandrite, a natural Alexandrite that's found from the earth, a rare mineral or a rare variety of this mineral, right, that will create these beautiful chameleon-like qualities without any treatment. We'll go with that price range. Currently today in the marketplace, it's currently September of 2019. Obviously prices will fluctuate over time. So if you're watching this video in 2025, if price should change, then don't call me out on it later on. But this is as of today in September of 2019 for a very high quality natural Alexandrite. Okay, compared to the lab, an equivalent will be obviously with a high quality grade, obviously with similar color characteristics. It's going to be very similar. That being said, because it's created in a lab and it's controlled to control the cost and the quality, you're going to look at anywhere between only $400 to $500 per carat, making it only about $2,000 to $2,500 for the same stone. Again, the difference is that one is man-made versus one is being made in nature. All right, so Alexandrite. The first stone that I will be taking out is definitely the natural Alexandrite. Okay, so here it is in the case. All right, so before taking it out, I normally, in these Geminars, I try to do my best to pick gemstones where we can compare apples to apples so that you can enjoy it and it can be as equivalent as possible. However, Alexandrite is actually very rare gemstone, especially when it comes to a natural that is untreated to have specific types of coloration. So that being said, although we're going to be comparing it to a 9x7 millimeter lab, this natural here is indeed an 8x6, so this is as close as I was able to get. Okay, so that being said, I just want to make sure I disclose that information. This is more for your information in terms of a visual base so that you can see it for yourself, especially if you are in the market to basically purchase an Alexandrite. It's a beautiful colored gemstone. So let me take this out for you. This is a natural Alexandrite, ladies and gentlemen. This is untreated. And what does that mean? All right, so just one more time as a reminder, most colored gemstones in the market, many people may not know this, but it is typically treated. It's either color treated, it's been filled, it's been radiated, and the whole purpose of doing so is because most colored gemstones in nature does not typically come in this type of coloration or very specific vibrant or deep type of color. So by enhancing it through different types of treatment mechanisms or processes rather, it enhances the color of the gemstone. So although it's natural, there are companies out there that will treat natural gemstones. This one, in fact, is a natural that is untreated. So that makes it very rare for it to have this specific color. As you can see as I move it around in specific lighting, again, in outdoors and daylight, the color of an Alexandrite will be typically a bluish greenish color in daylight, and it turns to a purplish reddish color in incandescent light. It's a really pretty gemstone, especially if you like the bluish hues, if you like the purplish hues, if you like the reddish hues, if you like the greenish hues. Depending on how you move it and under specific types of lighting environments, depending on how you look at it and which angles, you will see different colors. Just by looking at it, it's a really pretty gemstone. Now that being said, just a reminder, the refractive index for the stone is about 1.746 to 1.755. It's about an 8.5 in hardness on the Mohs scale. Again, since we've done many moissanite comparisons in the past, moissanite is about a 9.25 in the Mohs scale, and obviously the diamond is the highest at a 10. But this is rather hard in itself at an 8.5 in a Mohs scale. So this is, let me see here if I can get the details of this specific stone. This is an 8x6 millimeter, and it weighs approximately 1.7 carats in total weight. So there you go. That is the natural 8x6 millimeter. I did not mention the cut of this gemstone. It's an antique cushion cut. And all that basically means is an elongated cushion cut. All right, so it's also an antique cushion cut. So in other words, it's a more of a vintage cut, right, if you will. Let me take out the lab Alexandrite. All right, so what's the difference between a natural and a lab? And if you basically, all that basically means is that a lab gemstone has the same chemical properties, is made of the same type of mineral as a natural. The only difference is that one is man-made versus one is created in Mother Nature. So obviously the ones that are made in a lab is within a controlled environment. So typically lab created gemstones, regardless if it's a colored gemstone or if it's a moissanite or diamond, the quality of the gemstone can be made of very high quality because it's in a controlled environment. So therefore the quality of the gemstone typically comes out rather beautiful. In terms of inclusions, it's very rare to have too many inclusions in a lab-created gemstone, but at the same time, it's cut very nicely with a lot of brilliance. Okay, so here is the lab-created gemstone. This one is slightly larger. Okay, this one is a 9x7 millimeter, and the carat size for this specific stone is approximately 2.55 carats. So this one's obviously bigger than the natural here. The main difference that I can see with my naked eye right now is that although both are Alexandrites and both will show different hues of purples and red, purplish red and green and greenish blues, this specific lab looks as if it's closer to a darker, deeper color of that purplish red, whereas in the same lighting environment, this natural here has more of a greenish blue, although you can still see the purplish red depending on the angle you're looking at. So it's just marvelous. I mean, comparing the two. Obviously, one is made in nature, which is that one, and this one is man-made. Both are antique cushion cuts. Both are Alexandrites. The only difference is a lab, and this one isn't. And the difference between the two here is the coloration as well. Again, I want to emphasize that point only because, as you can see in this same lighting environment, you'll see more of a deep, dark, purplish, reddish color in some angles and a very light greenish, bluish color. Whereas this lab-created Alexandrite, you see a much more deep, reddish color and a slight purplish, bluish color at different angles. So there you go, and both are made of the same variety of mineral called crystal beryl. All right, so both are Alexandrite. In nature, it's very rare, but obviously we can make it these days. Now, what is the difference in prices, right? If you do follow information and follow the industry on gemstones and the works, you may know that typically the larger the gemstone, the more expensive it is, right? And it makes sense because it's more carat weight. It requires more to, especially if it's a natural gemstone, it's harder to find a larger stone. And I do want to also mention, and I believe I mentioned this in the past in my other videos as well, especially if you've been following our channel here, is that colored gemstones, many colored gemstones are much more rare than diamonds, right? So as much as diamonds have been marketed as being rare, colored gemstones are actually quite rare, especially very nice ones. All right, so now that being said, this stone is smaller than that, but because that is created in a lab, it's in a controlled environment, we can also control the costs. Or at least to the best of the ability of that manufacturing plant that's creating the gemstone, right? So this one in the marketplace at right now, it's selling anywhere between about $350 to about $500 per carat. So I mean, this one is about 2.5 carats. So let's just call it about $500 a carat. At $500 a carat, you're talking about maybe let me see, what is that? $1,250 approximately. All right, for this gemstone, approximately. It could be a little more, a little less, depending on who you buy it from, where you buy it, where in the world you're buying it from, and the supplier you're buying it from. That being said, this is a natural. This is a let me just double check that again. This is a I believe I said 1.7 carat Alexandrite. It's a natural untreated Alexandrite, okay? This one is going for approximately $20,000. And that's the market price, approximately. A little more, a little less, depending on where you buy it, who you buy it from, the supplier you're buying it from, if it's a brand name, if it's not a brand name. But it's approximately, if you're going to buy this in the marketplace, it's going to be at a base minimum of about $20,000 to anywhere in the upwards of the high 20s, I would say. All right, so that's a difference between a very rare, natural, untreated Alexandrite versus a lab Alexandrite. So, how do I conclude this? I've mentioned this many times in the past. There's really no right or wrong answer when it comes to gemstones and jewelry. It's really up to you, your preference, your budget, your style, what you wish to do with your own finances. If a beautiful gemstone is worth $20,000 plus, then go for it by all means, especially if that's something that you love to do. However, if it's not something that's within the budget that you are willing to fork out, then nowadays there's also a beautiful lab option. Both are made of the same minerals. Both are made of the same types of variety of the mineral, and obviously both have the purplish, reddish, greenish, bluish hue. So it's just really up to you. There's really no right or wrong answer. If you are a natural enthusiast, then go for the natural, and if you are all for labs, then go for labs. So the whole point of this is just really to showcase the differences between this lab Alexandrite versus a natural Alexandrite that's never been treated. Leave a comment below, let us know what you think, and we will be more than happy to respond to any comments or anything that you wish to do. This is the information that I, here at Fire and Brilliance want to make sure that we are educating you on, so that you can be educated. If you are in the marketplace for any reason looking for an Alexandrite, Alexandrites are very beautiful stones, by the way, and if you are looking for that colored stone, you definitely have good taste. That being said, if you are looking for Alexandrite, hopefully this video was able to bring you some value. And if you're new to the channel, again, welcome. And if you're not new to the channel, thank you for following us. Please be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, leave your comments below. Let us know what you think. Do you like these videos? Do you want us to go over more colored gemstones? Do you want us to go over rubies, emeralds, sapphires? I mean, you name it, we could probably do it. So what do you want us to go over? And I will be more than happy to do that for you. Again, we put everything on a list, okay? So all your ideas, your comments, your suggestions, we do put on a list so that when something is inquired enough, then we will make sure that we put out the time and effort to make a fun and educational video for you, okay? So there you go. That's the wrap on Alexandrite. If you have any questions, leave a comment below. Otherwise, thanks again and goodbye.